discussion is about the beauty of democracy. Conventionally, democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the same people. And part of democracy is elections, political parties, especially the kind of democracy that we run around here, party politics, as that of now, today, 6th of January 2025, there is no independence candidacy. So there is a vehicle that people ride in and ride with and ride on to power. That's political parties. So we have, as I stand today, I stand to be corrected, like 18 of them officially. There were more than that. We were tending towards 100 at the time. Many of them have been deregistered over time. So we have less than 20 or thereabout right now. So you want to talk about the party in power at the national level, APC, Progressive Congress, the PDP, the Labour Party, the NNPP, that's New Nigeria People's Congress, and of course the SDP, many of them AAC, they are bound. But then recently, because of power and the success recorded by these political parties, you get to hear the APC, the PDP was in power at the national level for 16 years. The APC have been in power now for almost 10 years. And of course, different parties have been in power in different states, including the Labour Party, and the NNPP, Otwe in Kano, the APC and the PDP, have shared the rest across the state. Then we have all state being having a Labour Party governor. So amidst of that, opposition politics is where the government, the party that is not in power, have a duty to wholesomely, emphasis on the wholesomely, and maybe most of the time politically look at issues, to keep the government in power, the party in power on their toes. We expect, is expected, wholesome criticisms. But most of the times, that's not what happens at the end of the day. Everything is criticized, but it's okay. But this criticism, either on the political level, either on a wholesome level, appears to be fading away. And you see people jumping ship. Even those that rode through to power through another party, they are tending towards the center. So we focus on what is happening, especially with the party that we have at the center, the APC, that has many persons, many parties criticizing it as political, opposition parties as well. But these days, it seems many of them are losing their voices. Many of them are even having issues to battle with, in which you can't see them as being stable. We have with us to shed more light into that for us. Critical stakeholder. He wears many caps, but we are sticking with his public affairs analysis this morning. Comrade Ologun. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. If you can please raise, your voice a bit. Good morning. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Yes, you had my introduction, and this morning we are talking about the beauty of democracy, especially the angle of opposition politics. Let's take a general overview before we dissect these things. Do we still have opposition parties? We know officially we have them. Any party that is registered with INEC and is not holding power in a particular capacity of state or country is known as opposition parties. But the real business of opposition politics, does it still exist in Nigeria as of today?
Well, permit me to disagree with you about your statement at your last week when you said any political party registered with the INEC and is not holding power is opposition party. Is absolutely not the case.
Okay.
In some cases, registered political parties that are not in power, but are in cohort or in agreement, or what we call a government of unity with the government or with the party in power. You can't call such a party an opposition party, especially when there is an agreement between the ruling party and such party for sharing of power or for connivance in terms of agreement and governance. So basically, the party that you can call an opposition party is a party registered with the INEC in Nigerian context that is not in power and is not sharing any part whatsoever with the government in power. Such are the party that you can call an opposition party. And I mean, it's difficult to admit, but it is the reality that apart from the officiality of it, there is opposition party in Nigeria. It's a different thing if you want to speak to their functionality. It's a different thing if you want to talk about the values they hold, the effect that they have on the ruling party, on the government. It's a totally different thing. But both on the basis of the book, in terms of officiality, and in terms of seldom actions of such parties, it will not be too good to assume that there is no opposition party. Where there is no opposition party, I can tell you that this situation of governance would have been worse because there probably would have been people of their kind, I mean politicians now, to have spoken out about policies, about programs, and about ideas of the government. So in reality, there is opposition party in Nigeria, but they are not as functional as they should be.
Right, and exactly that is what I mean. Of course, we have opposition parties, but I'm talking about the real business and the functionality of opposition politics. That is what I'm tending to. So, to reframe it, how obvious, how effective, how influential, how loud is their voice, if actually we still do have?
Well, I think it's important. Let's look at this issue from three prisms.
Yeah.
Number one, political parties in Nigeria have become what has been regarded in public domain as toothless dogs, a kind of dog that can bark but cannot bite. And that is because they don't give effect to their words, they don't give effect to their action. They have practically left the function of opposition in the hand of society organizations. It's quite unfortunate, but the two are meant to play different roles. Just like the name connotes, civil society, they are supposed to look into issues of civility, issues of governance. Of course, we have society in different functions: health, academics, education, politics, and whatever. But in Nigeria, what you have seen opposition party become is a toothless dog. They major in the minor, and most of the time minor on the major. And this is unfortunately why some of the time they are not being taken so seriously. You see opposition parties speak about every issue. They want to drop opinion on everything, which is not supposed to be. The fact that the party is in opposition does not mean that whatever the government in power does is absolutely wrong or utmostly not in the interest of the people. And that is why I said the major is the minor. The rule of the opposition is to sit down, look at document policies of the government. What is the trust of their governance, of their government? What is the books looking like? I'm talking about the budget for now, what you call the fiscal book. What are the things that they have stated in the fiscal budget that is not realistic or that they are not following through? How much of propositions or promises made are they fulfilled? These are the issues that the opposition parties should be concerned about. How people are being governed or being misgoverned. But unfortunately, what the opposition parties do, particularly in Nigerian context, is talking about the personality of the person sitting on the seat of governance, how the person is eating, how he goes to toilet, the kind of friends he makes, the kind of people he attends to and does not attend to, the kind of dress he wears, and all of that. These are unfortunate issues because the real job of opposition is to dissect the act of governance, bring out whatever you feel is not probable, and offer solutions. That is very key. As opposition, after identifying what the government is not doing right, it is your duty to provide solutions to see if the government would act to your criticism and take action. Otherwise, you use that as a leverage to campaign in the next election to say that, look, the government is not doing well in this part of, on this part or on the other. We as the opposition, if you put us into power, we will do this to correct this, we will do that to correct this. That is supposed to be the job of the opposition, but unfortunately, they major in the mind by putting attention on things that does not matter, leaving the real issue, the real core of governance unattended to.
So, Mr. Ayo, are you indirectly saying that the opposition parties are weak?
I'm not indirectly saying it, I'm saying it boldly and loudly that the opposition in Nigeria are weak. Weak in function, weak in ability, weak in context and content. and they're also weak in the personality of those that speak for them. For example, you have someone who has the privilege to be a governor, has the privilege to be a commissioner, and we know the antecedent of such a person, how reckless such a person was while in office, and then he gets into the opposition, and those are the people that you put in the front on the front border. These are the people that becomes the mouthpiece of the position, and you expect the people to take you serious. Not they won't, because they can relate with the antecedent of the person speaking for the opposition, and they can clearly say that, look, while you were in office, you were in no way better, and that is what one of the things makes the opposition so weak and almost on existence in Nigeria.
Okay, Mr. Ayo, some persons would tend to think that poverty in the country is a prevalent factor why some of these parties, some of these opposition parties are exhibiting weakness.
It's not poverty. I would rather call it greed. Because what you call poverty is a state of the mind. You don't define a person as being poor by how many houses he has built, how many cars he rides in, what is the location of his house, where the school his children attend. Those are not the definition of poverty. And that's why you can be financially rich, you can be influential, and still be poor in your thinking. So I would rather call it greed on the part of the opposition or the politicians rather than call it poverty. And that is because many of them do not see governance as service. They see it as shareholding. They see it as a national cake where everybody goes with knife in hand to cut a share. Many of them are not in politics because they want to render service. Come take a pen and lead your topmost politician and tell me what their second address is. Tell me what their antecedents are. Tell me what they are known with or what they have been known with before they become public office occupied. Many of them have nothing that can be traced to them. They have nothing that can be referenced to them. So all that they are in politics for is survival, which eventually becomes greed. That is why even when they are in opposition, they are not content. They are either doing the work of opposition with the hope that the government in power will reach out to them, reach compromise and win them over so that they can continue eating from national cake or continue to attack government in power because they hope that by such doing, their own party can return to power and the sleasing can continue. So for me, it's not about poverty. Apart from the Vuvuzela, the Facebook and the Twitter bots, that you can say, okay, maybe they are looking for what to eat. An average politician in Nigeria has once a time been an office holder, and we can trace them to their record. They have been sleasers.
Okay.
So they are only looking for a way of getting back to power to continue sleazing the economy, or they are looking for ways through which the government in power can look at their side and win them over. So for me, it is greed and not knowing what value is.
Okay, Mr. Ayo, can it also be attributed to the electoral process of the country? Can we say that some of these opposition parties are weak because the electoral process is not really something that you can trust?
Of course, the electoral process is not foolproof, it's not absolutely trustworthy. But the question is, who makes the electoral process untrustworthy? Is it not the same set of politicians? So when I hear politicians cry foul, I laugh at them. Many a times I fight a lot of them because they have been used to be to praise singing. They've not been used to people who can tell truth to power. They've not been used to people who can look at them and say that, look, you were part of the problem. In essence, what we're saying is this: whatever the state of the electoral process is in Nigeria, the politicians make it so because for them, politics and election is a do or die affair. It's a matter of win at all costs and go to court. Of course, that's where you hear slang after winning. They will say win anyhow, and then they tell the opposition the other day that the electoral process, the judicial process also has been compromised, and they know what to do. They know the dealings under the table. So how can you complain about a process that you are part of those who made it as bad or as worse as it is? So as much as we are winning, wishing, making effort as individuals, as organizations, as groups to enhance the electoral process, we must also remind them that, look, we are where we are because you brought us here as politicians. So while you are doing your position, don't forget to first of all retribute. Don't forget to first of all admit that you were shamefully part of where we have gotten to. And you can only seek for our forgiveness and do better going forward. Unfortunately, the only politicians that have been able to do that in the 21 years of the Fourth Republic in Nigeria has been late President Musa Yar'Adua, who publicly admitted that the electoral process that brought him to office as president was flawed. notwithstanding he was going to ensure that the electoral process cleaned up to have proper and more acceptable elections going forward. Unfortunately, like us will say, we did not have him for too long. So until as individuals, as journalists, as groups, we begin to point fingers into the eyes of the opposition to say that, look, we understand that we are our lowest wealth electorally, but we didn't get here by our choice. You brought us on army, and except you are ready to change and you accept the role you played in how flawed our electoral process has been, such individuals should have no mouth in accusing those who are doing the worst at the moment.
Okay, Mr. Ayo, you talked about late President Musa Yar'Adua, who publicly accepted the fact that the process that brought him in wasn't really fine. And you're also talking about being open to talk. Nigerians should talk. Is there really freedom of speech in the country?
Well, on the joking side, just by the sideline, the freedom of speech is there. What happens after the freedom of speech is another thing. Of course, we've seen what has happened to a number of our colleagues in the society, whereby they cooked. Of course, even in the media industry, we know what has been happening to Fisaya Soyombo. We know what has happened to Agbajalingo in Cross River. We know what has been happening to a number of those who have been open, who has been loud in the criticism of government. We know what Yele Sowore is still battling with, and a number of others, the Jadeyan Jew and the rest of them. So, but the truth is, we all cannot be silenced. We all cannot. Some of us are made not to keep quiet. And that is why we keep telling Nigerians that until we all come together to raise our voice, and loudly so, in condemnation of the electoral process, and in ensuring that rather than praise politicians for what they are being paid to do, we challenge them, we bring out faults in them, we lay it bare to them that you are not doing rightly. Except we all do that, except we all become a voice, Nigeria will continue to go down the conundrum. Look, politicians are they are the worst set of people when it comes to fear. They are not as bold as they portray themselves to be. I can say this for a fact. They are not as confident as they come on here to tell you, especially when you are facing them with facts and figures. So if as Nigerians we know that the ultimate power lies in our hands as the electorate, we also must be conscious of the fact that after electing them into office, or after they find their way to the office one way or the other, we owe it a duty, we owe it a right to continue to ask them questions, to continue to put them on their toes, to continue to lay facts bare to them of what they have done wrongly or what they have failed to do. It is the only way by which we can get them to do rightly. Because naturally, by human nature, nobody wants to do right, except if you have a bit of conscience or you have a fear of God. So it is the duty of people around, especially in terms of governance, the people, the ordinary people, to continue to make demands on those who occupy public office, to demand for accountability, to tell them where they are going wrong, to tell them what they are failing to do, and how it is important that such things should be done. So if we continue to be under the fear of what will happen to us after speaking of freedom of speech, we will never get there. Everybody cannot be Ologun, everybody cannot be Yele Sowore, everybody cannot be the Jadeyan Jew and the rest, everybody cannot be Femi Falana. But you see, in that little corner of yours, in your office, in the organization you work for, in the political party you belong to, be a voice. Ask questions, challenge authority, so that we can have a society that we all can be proud of.
All right. Let's look at it this way. Conrad, two questions for me. Number one is this. When you talk about opposition politics, really, what easily comes to mind, especially in the Nigerian context, is the fact that whatever the party in power does, just find a fault. You agree with me? That's the average thinking of many persons that think the fact that you want to show yourself that you are being vocal, you are being vociferous, you are being loud, you are being active, is to always find fault, in whatever the party in power does. Is that really opposition? Really? And sometimes some of those things can really get petty. I think you address some of it passively. And then you see the kind of clothes I wear, my dancing steps, the color of my shoes, the church that I attend. Is that really opposition politics for you to stay relevant? It shows that every intention of the government in power, you must just criticize. First question.
As an individual, when you meet or you come across someone who has an opinion about everything, you should be wary of such people, because such people are either looking for one of two things. They are either looking for patronage or they are looking for recognition. No man is an highland of knowledge. You can't know, you can't have an opinion about everything. Unfortunately, that is the place that the opposition parties in Nigeria have found themselves. And that's why I said the major underminer. They leave the very probable things, the very important things, they leave them unattended to follow shadows, to trace things that are irrelevant. You would have thought that an opposition party, so to say, would be one that can sit down with their deep thinkers, with their analysts, and with those who are thinking for them, to say that, look, bring the budgets of the incumbent party for this year. Let's dissect it. Where have they got it from? Where have they allocated an awesome amount to issues that are frivolous? Where have they made attempts to glorify what is important? Where have they failed to address the key issue of the need of the people, so that you can put such in the front burner? You will think that when equality trust is thrown to the public, the opposition will digest it, will analyze it, and will bring out why such policies might not work, and offer solutions of how things can be done better to have better results. But unfortunately, that is not what they do. They want to have opinion about everything. The governor is sleeping with his wife. They want to know why, how, and how decently he does it. He's going out. They want to look. They are concerned about the color of his shoe, the color of his eyeglasses, what choice he decides to make with his outlook. They are particular about what church he goes to, like you mentioned. What does he do there, and all of this. These are non-issues. As a matter of fact, if another citizen should bring that up, I will have no issues with it. But when I see opposition party begin to release press statements about where the governor decides to go in his personal capacity, not officially now, because if it becomes official, it is open for criticism. But you begin to talk about what the governor chooses to do, what he chooses to eat, who he chooses to mingle with, and all of that, leaving the core issues of governance, then I see such a position as being a joke. Because you see them issue press statements almost on a daily basis about issues that are practically irrelevant. Why should it matter to you what the family of the governor does, how many the governor decides to marry, where he decides to keep one, and all of that? Where you can as well sit down to look at the projects of the government, what is the value, what is the impact of such projects, at what cost are those projects being delivered? What is your duty other than to take up the government, and if we are not answering you maybe by freedom of information bill or what have you, you take them to court. But ask yourself, how many issues have you seen the opposition party taking the government in power to court over? Even the ordinary OCX issue has not been, the final say of it has not been asked. If that is something that concerns them as an opposition. So you see that the opposition parties here are just mere vuvuzelas in most cases. They just want to talk for talking's sake. Most of the time, they don't speak to issues, and they don't do things or speak to issues that are of utmost benefit to the people that they even seek to govern by trying to upturn the government in power. So sometimes they are just all on the same.
And, you said they are all on the same. Wouldn't that be unfair? And I tell you what, to say the opposition politics is almost non-existent, and maybe other political parties are the same, to say, since the advent of this republic in 1999, the turn of this democracy that we have, PDP was at the center, from 1999 to 2015. And then there have been opposition trying to get into power from the APP, AMPP, Buhari CPC, the Lagos Hangul, and the Southwest AD then. And all of these things, they fought and they did whatever they could. They couldn't get power from the PDP. And in fact, some were boasting from the PDP's end that at least they will spend 50 years in power. But then there was a merger, the NPDP, the CPC, the MPP, and many of those guys came together and, formed the APC, and they got power from the PDP. That was opposition, actually. And when PDP were there, the voice was loud, although some might say part of what they did was propaganda, but at least they were there. PDP were on its toes, and since the APC government has gotten there, it seems the opposition has been weakened. In fact, recently, one party bigwig of the PDP, Segun Showumi, said, a former gubernatorial candidate, he was blaming the president for the wars in their party, to say, why did he take Wike from them. And many persons were wondering, what exactly does that give? You are looking like you are helpless, and one individual out of your party and your party have crumbled, and for a position party member chieftain to be blaming the president in power for depleting their team. What does that say? Just to connect the two, that the opposition has always been there, but what is really happening? But because it even looks like one of the party members, bigwigs, is complaining that the party at the center is the one depleting their team. Two questions in one.
Well, see, when you see someone, an individual, who blames everybody around him for his woes, but never looks inwards to identify where he has failed as an individual, just know that that person is only existing and not living. And that is the truth status of the PDP as a party. PDP is only existing. They are not living. Now, were they to be a living party, they probably will not have some of their big wigs, the likes of Chief Bode George, Shego Showumi, and the rest of them speak the way they do. It's because they see faults in every other person, in every other individual, rather than look at why they failed as a party. And that's why, sincerely speaking, except the miracle happens, I don't see a PDP as a formidable party at the national level to be able to take power or wrestle power from the incumbent. But let's enlarge it, like you said. Let's look at the opposition generally. Look, the unfortunate reality, the unfortunate issue that has brought the opposition to irrelevance in quotes now, is the fact that there is even no principle, there is even no ideologies by which these political parties exist. In a saner climate, political parties are expected to exist on basic principles and ideologies for which they are known. When you have so-so party in power, you know what to expect. You know that some policies will never be. When you have the other party in government, you know what to expect. And that is why the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in the United States, once you have either of the two parties in power, the people can easily project about what will be the trust of such government, because they know the ideologies, they know the characteristics that these parties are identified with. But what you have in Nigeria are simply tools for electoral victory. They are not political parties in the real sense of it. They are not driven by principles. They are not driven by ideologies. And that is why you can wake up today and find the chairman of the ANPP becoming a member of the APC just within 24 hours. You can see a governor elected on the platform of a particular political party defects in their own language now to another party, and yet it does not lose his seat. It carries on as if the principles, the ideologies, the promises he made as the manifesto of the party with which he comes into government is the same thing with the party he's switching to. That tells you that as individuals and as political parties, they are devoid of ideologies, they are devoid of principle. Even most of the time, they are devoid of conscience. So when you have such individuals who are joining political parties or who are drivers of the political parties for selfish gain, for attention, for power, they are driven by the need to be in power at all costs. They are driven by the need to be able to live large on the expense of the government. There are a lot of them that have never done anything for themselves in their lives. From their early 30s, they've been councillors, from their local government chairman to this and to that and to that. They are practically being the one Nigeria has been serving. In the reasons of it, they've not been servicing Nigeria, they've not been serving Nigeria. So when you have such people all of a sudden come into power or become opposition, what you get is what you are seeing. And that is why it is difficult, like it is now, to have the opposition parties come together to wrestle power from the incumbent, like the CPC, NPP, and the AD or ACN did to form the what we call APC now. I remember I was part of the CPC for both the formation of it in 2009, 2010 to 11, when Pastor Tony Bakari was running mate to Buhari, and I know the ideologies by which that party was driven. I know the concessions that were made when the merger was to be done. But tell me, when you see political parties sit down now to talk about merger, before they leave that table, they beat themselves, they curse themselves, because what is being discussed on that table is the agenda of who becomes what, rather than how do we get power. It is the popular saying that when you go to war, you first of all win the war and come and share the ruins. But of course, in Nigerian context of the opposition, they are already sharing power. They are already sharing ruins for a war that they have not even gone into. And that is why it is difficult for them to give concession. Everybody wants to be president. Everybody wants to be vice president. So when they are talking of merger on the table, they are not talking about how to align their ideologies and principles how to devise strategies into winning an election. They are on that table to see how to convince the other person to drop his ambition for them, or how to convince the other person, or to bribe him, or to buy him over. And that is why it is difficult. And I don't know how possible it would be in the next 1 year or 2 years, as the case may be, to have a formidable opposition that can be devoid of interest and power sharing mentality to be able to raise power from the incumbent. So some are really saying it is not about the political parties, so to say. It is about the person that formed those political parties. They are not driven by principles. They are not driven by ideology. They are not driven by the interest of service. They are driven by the needs to get power through whatever means. And it's quite unfortunate.
All right. And, the next question many Nigerians want to ask is, does that mean that we are now heading towards a one-party state? That will be the question that we will answer after this break. We'll be speaking with the public affairs analyst, Ologun, and of course, with myself and Uzoms. We take this break. When we return, the program will continue. Stay with us.